They said Plymouth was dead. They buried it in 2001, closed the books, turned off the lights, and told the American muscle faithful to look elsewhere. For over 2 decades, that chapter stayed closed. And then, without warning, without apology, without compromise, it didn't just open again, it detonated. Welcome back to Premium Automotive Reviews, where we go beyond the brochure and beyond the press release to talk about what cars actually mean. And what we have in front of us today means something that is genuinely difficult to put into words. This is the 2027 Plymouth Road Runner. And before we go any further, there is one engineering decision buried inside this car. A choice made about how power is delivered in the first 3 seconds of full throttle that is going to divide enthusiasts right down the middle. We'll get there. Hold on to that. Because first, we need to talk about what this car is saying before it even moves. Stand at the front of the Road Runner and give yourself a moment. The split grille architecture wears the Plymouth name across its face the way a fighter wears their record, every letter earning its place. The hood doesn't just sit flat, it breathes. Twin carbon-framed vents press into the surface like they're under pressure from below, which, at operating temperature, they essentially are. The headlights cut sharp and deliberate, not decorative, like eyes that have already decided something before you've made your move. The stance is planted so aggressively low to the ground that the car looks like it's already accelerating at rest. Move around the side, and the widebody architecture tells the full story. Carbon fiber side skirts run the length of the rocker, and the rear haunch swells outward with the kind of confidence that doesn't need to explain itself. Those forged multi-spoke wheels, measuring 22 inches at the rear, are wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber, and behind them sit gold-painted Plymouth-branded brake calipers that are either the most satisfying detail you'll find on a performance car at this price point, or a conversation that starts every time you park near other people. Probably both. The tail is where this car becomes genuinely cinematic. A full-width light bar carries the Plymouth name embedded into the blackout panel, flanked by 3-dimensional LED tail lamps that glow with layered depth. The carbon rear diffuser frames 4 square exhaust outlets, with enough visual aggression to remind you that what sits ahead of the firewall is not subtle. Open the door. The weight of it is immediate and deliberate, not heavy for the sake of drama, but heavy because the structure beneath your hand has been engineered to feel like a single machined piece. Lower yourself into the seat and the bolsters close around you with a quiet authority. The leather is dark, tight-grained, and stitched in amber thread that catches light in a way that feels earned rather than decorated. There is a carbon fiber center console that runs the full length between the seats, and on its face sits a numbered plaque, Edition 1 of 10. That number is not marketing language. That is the reality of what Plymouth is building in this first production wave. The dashboard is low, wide, and wrapped completely in carbon and leather, without a single visible seam that shouldn't be there. The analog gauges cluster in a pod that pays deliberate homage to the original Road Runner's instrument panel, but surrounded by modern telemetry displays that integrate adaptive systems, lap timing, thermal monitoring, and drive mode selection without cluttering the visual field. The infotainment screen runs the Road Runner interface with the bird logo rendered in gold on a black field every time you start the car. It is a small moment. It lands every single time, settle into the driving position. The steering wheel is thick, flat-bottomed, carbon-trimmed, and immediately responsive to grip. The cabin is quiet at rest, genuinely quiet, with acoustic glass and structured door seals that isolate exterior noise in a way that makes the first startup feel even more theatrical when it breaks that silence. Press the start button. The supercharged 6.2-liter V8 does not wake up gently. It catches with a deep, mechanical bark that settles almost immediately into an idle that pulses through the seat structure, not uncomfortably, but communicatively. You feel it in your lower back, in your palms, in the soles of your feet. The exhaust-noted idle is layered and complex. A low growl with a slightly hollow, metallic quality underneath that lets you know the internals are substantial. Rev it cold and the supercharger whine begins to emerge beneath the exhaust tone. Not aggressive yet, just present, like something drawing breath before it speaks. The estimated output of this powertrain is targeted internally at 850 horsepower and 780 pound-feet of torque. delivered through a rear-wheel drive layout, made it to a 6-speed automated manual transmission that can be overridden with paddle shifters mounted directly behind the steering wheel spokes. Every gear change in sport mode arrives with a short, sharp crack through the exhaust that is not electronically enhanced. That is the mechanical reality of the drivetrain speaking at full voice. On the move, the Road Runner does something that separates genuinely great performance cars from simply powerful ones. It communicates. The steering weight builds progressively with speed. The front end tracks with precision that feels locked rather than assisted. And the chassis, built on a revised platform with adaptive magnetic dampers and a front-to-rear weight balance, targeting 48 to 52, responds to surface changes the way a great athlete responds to terrain. It adjusts without consulting you, but never without informing you. The throttle response in normal mode is surprisingly manageable for 850 horsepower. That is intentional. The Road Runner's drive system reads throttle input rate and vehicle lateral load before releasing full torque, which is the engineering decision that will start arguments. Purists will say the car is managing you. The engineers at Plymouth will say they are protecting the car's ability to put power down on real roads rather than only on prepared surfaces. Both perspectives are defensible. Neither is wrong. Open the throttle fully at highway speed in track mode, and the supercharger stops being polite. The whine rises fast, the exhaust cracks open, and the acceleration is not gradual. It is a reordering of reference points. 0 to 60 is internally projected at 3.1 seconds. At that number, you are not counting. You are simply processing. There is a version of this drive that exists somewhere on an empty stretch of Western American highway at just past sunrise, when the temperature is cool enough to keep intake charge density high and the road ahead disappears into a vanishing point. That is where the Road Runner becomes something beyond transportation. That is where the nameplate earns its second life. Pricing for the first production edition is expected to open near $285,000. That is not a muscle car number. It is a hypercar number attached to a nameplate that once competed on volume and accessibility. But here is the honest framing. What you are buying is not simply a fast American coupe. You are buying craftsmanship built in limited numbers by a team that spent years studying what Plymouth meant to American automotive culture before they were given permission to rebuild it. You are buying engineering that references the past without being imprisoned by it. The price is high. The justification is real. This car was built for someone specific. Not someone defined by net worth or garage size, but someone who thinks about the nature of mechanical connection during their commute. Someone who believes a car should have a personality, not just a performance envelope. Someone who felt something genuine the first time they heard a supercharged V8 at full song, and decided then that no electric motor would ever fully replace that feeling. The Road Runner speaks to that person in a language they already understand. Its one honest limitation worth naming is rear seat practicality, which is minimal in the aggressive roofline configuration. This is not a grand touring car for 4 adults on a long weekend. It is a driver's car that happens to accommodate 2 comfortably, with cargo space that handles weekend luggage and little else. Plymouth has not apologized for this. They should not. Before we go, a genuine question worth debating in the comments. Should an icon like the Plymouth Road Runner have been rebuilt as a limited edition, ultra-premium performance machine, or would its spirit have been better honored as an accessible, high-volume American muscle car the way it originally existed? There is no clean answer. Drop your take below, and subscribe to Premium Automotive Reviews if you want to be here for every vehicle we stand in front of and refuse to oversimplify. The Plymouth Road Runner didn't come back to remind you of the past. It came back to prove the past was never finished.